Okay, now we're talking, ladies and fellas. The South American clubs are showing up to this tournament and causing big issues. There were people who thought that European clubs wouldn't lose a match in this tournament. There were some crazy takes out there. Now things are getting interesting though, aren't they? Not just the European champions defeated, but Inter Miami win? What? Let's get into it. Okay, these two teams were trying to kill each other in the first half. In between the fouls, however, there were some exciting moments, some get-out-of-your-seat moments from Estevan as he took the ball and stormed across the face of the Al Ahly goal before just rolling it wide. That's a few poor finishes from him in this tournament, but that's something that he can always improve upon, right? But overall, that first half was lively. It was exciting with all the fouls. It looked like there would be a red card, but Anthony Taylor overturned his own decision. Great application of VAR there. And well done from Taylor for not being too proud and stubborn, which we've seen from some referees, right? In the second half, Palmeiras really began turning up the heat, but the breakthrough was a bit fortunate, as from a free kick, we had two Al Ahly players contending for the ball with each other, and they put it in their own goal. Final touch off of Abu Ali. But once that goal went in, with Al Ahly pushing for an equalizer, given their tournament would be in major jeopardy with a loss, Palmeiras began hitting them on the counter, just how Abel Ferreira, their manager, likes it, right? And from one of those rapid counters, Jose Lopez, who came on as a sub in the second half, peeled away from the defenders, then rolled the ball perfectly into the corner. Oh, and we had another damn weather delay. 50 minutes, man. That is not good for the players to go, then stop, then go again. Begging for muscular injuries, just begging for it. And one player had to come off, actually, probably because of that. So 2-0, the final here for Palmeiras as CONMEBOL just rolls on. At this point in time, they were undefeated. I gotta say, they really disappointing performances from Al Ahly. I understand they have a new coach and some new players in the mix, that they are missing their best player in Ashur, but I really expected better from Al Ahly in this tournament. This one got off to a hot start. Luis Suarez making a good run in behind. He was chaotic and great out there for them, and forcing a save out of Claudio Ramos. He was offside, but still. Then Porto attacked in the other direction, and Allen's foot brushed against Romario. He went down and a penalty was awarded. The commentator called it a VAR penalty, Mr. Cantor himself, legendary commentator. And I think that's a good way of putting it, right? A penalty in the VAR era where any bit of contact is punished. It was pretty light, but it has to be given these days. And Samu converted. Can't ask for a better start if you're FC Porto, right? That first half was weird. Really, really weird. Porto were far superior without even having to try, really, without having to get up to speed, as there was absolutely zero, negative pressure applied from Inter Miami when Porto was in possession. Those dudes all just stand around when Porto have the ball in their own half. It's like they're playing basketball. They just get back into their own half and stand there. Numerous times, the Porto players could play 5 or 6 passes back and forth to each other, just like bing, 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 there's over and over again, because there was no pressure. Then, to defend, Porto just had to drop back into their back 5, and there was almost no movement from Inter Miami's front line, and yet Miami wouldn't try to work the ball up through short passes and movement. They would just stand on the center line and try to play long balls in behind, and they didn't work out most of the time in that first half. That's not to say they didn't have chances, because now and then they did, and Claudio Ramos was tested, mostly thanks to Messi and Suarez's brilliance, but the absolute sluggish pace of play was tough to watch from Miami in the first half. Anything good, of course, like I was saying, came from Messi and Suarez. And then the second half came along, and everything changed. Porto must have felt like they would really not have to try or play anymore against Inter Miami, while Miami improved across the park. The attack was more potent. The defense was far stronger. Just like against Al Ahly, they had wholesale improvements in that second half. Segovia got Miami back level with a goal just 2 minutes into the second half. Immediate sucker punch that Porto never really recovered from. Good ball in by Marcelo Weingart, and a fantastic finish from Segovia that Claudio Ramos really had no chance at. Poor Ramos, he was quite good all match, most of it at least. And then it was Messi time. 54th minute, fouled on the edge of the box, and he hit it keeper side straight into the top corner with pace. That was direct free kick goal number 68, I believe, so he is 9 behind Juninho's record of 77. Somehow he seems to be better at free kicks from that range than he is at converting penalties, which is an interesting little thing about Lionel Messi. But Porto then were scrambling, with Inter Miami's defense standing strong and Ustari having an answer to everything else. Inter Miami win. Did not see this coming, but I should have known better than to trust this version of FC Porto, honestly. And so, as we look at the standings, there's a lot to be played for in this group. Palmeiras and Inter Miami face off next and could get through with any result, depending on what happens in the other match between Al Ahly and FC Porto. All right, on to Group B. In Seattle, you have done yourself proud, honestly. There were numerous moments throughout the first half against Atletico Madrid where Seattle were their own worst enemies, giving the ball away in dangerous areas, the worst of their problems, as well as some porous defending at times. They were lucky that Sorloth was not feeling it. He made a mess of 2 or 3 great chances, but Seattle, after that, were playing quite well. The one goal they did concede in the first half was an absolute banger from Barrios. The only way to describe that goal was a banger, and I think it's justified in doing so. My favorite kind of goal, an unstoppable strike that hits the bar and goes in. This one hit the bar twice, however, so even better, right? Great work from Giuliano Simeone, who was actually a menace down that right side of Atletico's attack. He played a big role in that goal, as well as the almost penalty Atleti had. It was called back for not being a foul in the end, and that was the right call, in my opinion, as each guy had a handful of each other. Hey, I'm happy with that not being a penalty. But 10 minutes into the second half, 3 goals in the first 10 minutes, 2 for Atleti, 1 for Seattle. First, you have Axel Witsel getting one from a scramble in front of goal. I completely forgot that he exists. Seattle pulled one back 4 minutes later when Rusnak crossed into the box. It was headed down, and eventually Rusnak knocked it in. One thing I'll say again is that Seattle's pressing of Atleti was quite good, forcing mistakes, recovering the ball in Atleti's half a few times. They were not giving them any time to play around with it at the back. It was short-lived, however, as Atleti would regain their 2-goal cushion through Pablo Barrios once again. He was very good in this game. Calm finish from him as the defender slipped, which was unfortunate, leaving Barrios with tons of time to pick his spot, and he did so very, very well. But Seattle pushed hard at the end of this match. It was not comfortable for Atletico. You had the goal that was brought back for offside, yes, but that spoke to the weak line that Atletico was leaning on. Later, you had Obed Vargas' opportunities blocked by Gallagher. He supported Atleti since he was a boy, so that would have been a special moment for Obed Vargas if he was to score against them. Also, speaking of young talents, a great, good match, I'll say, for Reed Baker-Whiting, the 20-year-old left back. Had some fantastic moments in defense and the attack, and then some moments where he showed his age and experience with some loose passing, but overall, a performance to be proud of. And of course, Christian Roldan, CR7 for Seattle, great once again for them. But Atleti get the 3-1 win, they're up and running, and while Barrios deservedly gets man of the match, Giuliano Simeone, you have much, much more of my attention than you did previously. Inter Miami defeated Porto, and then we were treated to PSG losing to Botafogo. UEFA clubs were undefeated after the first round of matches, then 2 lose in one day. For the good of the tournament, you gotta love to see it, man. And shout out to CONCACAF and CONMEBOL teams for getting things done. So in this one, Luis Enrique rotated his lineup heavily. Was it arrogance or was it simply rotating to avoid injuries? My guess would be the latter, to be honest with you, as you're going to need your whole squad to win this tournament, right? Anyway, Botafogo, the Copa Libertadores holders, took the lead in the 36th minute through Igor Jesus. He split between Beraldo and Pacho. Then his strike deflected off of Pacho's leg and passed Donnarumma for 1-0 Botafogo. PSG did have opportunities to tie things up. They were still industrious in the attack, but I think it's fair to say that through the quality of Botafogo's defending, the quality of PSG's chances were not incredibly high. High volume, but not the highest of quality chances, as the defending on display from Botafogo was impressive. They were really dangerous on the counter, and it was a fantastic win for them. Like I was saying, less so the events of the match, but more interesting is how this affects the tournament. Yes, PSG will probably still defeat Seattle by a few goals, probably not guaranteed, but this tournament needed this. And in international tournaments, these kinds of stories always kind of bubble to the top. There's always one out there or two. But on top of that, the Brazilian clubs are more fresh as they are getting ready for the next segment of their season and are able to match the speed of the European teams and the physicality. Couple that with the skill that they have, and they are absolutely to be taken seriously in this tournament. Would I still bet on PSG to defeat them in the knockout stages of the tournament if they were to meet? Yes, for sure. But the South American teams are looking good, aren't they? So, Botafogo top the group with 2 victories, and they take on Atletico Madrid in their next match. That should be a great one, as Atleti are playing for their place in the next round. Meanwhile, PSG will, of course, take on Seattle in their home stadium. Seattle's, of course. Will the crowd pushing them be enough? Is there another upset on the cards? My guess is no, but you never know. Flamengo and Chelsea was filled with chances. 2 really good teams going at each other. Some loose defending now and then, just adding to the drama. And these 2 teams were playing hard. Chelsea started Delap, and he brought what you would expect. Good runs in behind, a lot of work off of the ball, but his quality in the final third wasn't very good. So, hey, not exactly a massive upgrade on Jackson in that regard. More on Jackson in a moment and his idiotic actions. But guys, we're 2 matches in as well, so let's not write off Delap just yet, right? Flamengo's attackers looked lively, but it was Pedro Neto now playing on the left of Chelsea's attack who got their opener in this game. That's 2 goals in this tournament for him. And while Chelsea looked good in the first half, Flamengo were always threatening as well. But in the second half, Flamengo's legend Bruno Henrique came on for Arrascaeta and changed this match completely. Flamengo had come close prior to that. They had a chance that just went the wrong side of the post from Plata, trying to desperately get on the end of a deflected strike. But 62nd minute, oh, there goes the light. And Bruno got on the end of the squared ball from Plata to make it 1-1 and send the Flamengo supporters at the end of that pitch into a fervor. 3 minutes later, and the header across the box from Bruno would be tucked away acrobatically by who? None other than Danilo, the old fella, to make it 2-1 to Flamengo. Jorginho and Felipe Luis, former Chelsea boys, very happy to see Flamengo turn things around. As for Chelsea and their supporters, they got to watch Nicolas Jackson make another brain-dead challenge, just as he did in May against Newcastle United, and get himself sent off. Another scumbag challenge from him where you can really hurt somebody, just as Figal did against Benfica, and the question is why? What on earth was he thinking? Figal got 4 matches for his red card, which isn't dissimilar from Jackson's foul, so that may have been the last that we've seen of Jackson at this tournament, unless Chelsea go all the way. So with Chelsea, a man down, Flamengo smelled blood and continued trying for goals, and the substitute Wallace Yan, who had come on 1 minute prior, found the ball at his feet somewhat fortunately in the 83rd minute, and he smacked it past Sanchez for 3-1 Flamengo. Lincoln Financial Field going crazy. So Flamengo get the 3-1 win, and at this point, still, South American football undefeated at the Club World Cup. The Chelsea players looked shocked at the end of this one. Hello, good morning once again, and wow, what a match this was. This match is a perfect example of why we can't have fixture or schedule snobbery. Just because they may not be the biggest names in the tournament doesn't mean they can't provide a ton of entertainment, right? The first half saw goals disallowed for LAFC as well as a big save from Hugo Lloris. Each side looked just as likely to score, with Buenga looking menacing at times. Giroud's threat was always there, Martinez, but Esperance always looking the more likely to me. Balaili thought he had won a penalty just after the half, but it was called back and he was booked for diving. That said, he'd make up for that later when he would latch onto the ball in the LAFC box, cut around a defender, then hit it through Lloris's legs. The Esperance supporters, who were strong in number once again, going absolutely crazy. It just goes to show how big some of these clubs are, you know? I barely heard of them prior to this tournament as someone who doesn't follow African football closely enough. And look at their crowd turnouts in both Nashville and Philadelphia, right? Esperance could have doubled their lead a few times in the second half, including right after they scored as Balaili cut the ball back. And the guy who shot, I can't remember who it is, but he had his strike headed off of the crossbar by the LAFC defender, so very close call there. And the drama continued at the end of this match as Esperance had another massive chance that they couldn't convert, and of course, LAFC had a penalty in stoppage time. They convert, and this match ends in a draw, and both teams are alive going into their final matches. But Buenga steps up to hit it, and it was saved by Ben Said with his leg. Unbelievable drama there. Esperance win, and they go on equal points with Chelsea. And guess what? They play Chelsea on the final match day, which will be an unmissable one. With 2 losses, LAFC are eliminated, and on the other side of things, Flamengo is the first team to guarantee their place in the last 16. They would later be joined by another team, though. Benfica. You frustrate me, as do weather delays, But anyway, before the weather delay, Benfica were taking on Auckland. They were obviously dominating them. And while Benfica had their own failures and barely looked like they were interested in this match in that first half, Auckland City's keeper, Nathan Garrow, was playing fantastic. He was a very busy boy behind that Auckland defense, which they were defending very well, to their credit, right? But at the end of the first half, a Di Maria penalty finally broke the deadlock and the floodgates opened. And once that happened, Benfica just began running away with things in the second half, goal after goal. This was the expectation for the first half, right? But the quality of Benfica's play at times was a little bit sloppy by their own standards, misplaced passes, unforced errors. Maybe it's hard to get into a game when you're playing against an amateur side, but that kind of mentality won't get you very far. Just look at how much Bayern relished smashing these guys, right? Asking Olise if he felt bad? Nope. That kind of thing. Just absolutely ruthless. And when you know that you need all of the goals that you can get, as it's likely the difference between advancing or not, or it can be, you got to take this stuff seriously, man. It shouldn't take a full half. Thankfully, in the second half, Benfica was trying to rack up the goals. 6-0 in the end. Benfica showing up in the second half. Auckland City, the first team of this tournament to be eliminated. So after PSG versus Botafogo and the fun upset we got there, this match felt like the one where we would finally see a CONMEBOL team lose a match. And while it would have been bad news for Benfica, I was still rooting for Boca in this match and had this sneaking suspicion that maybe, just maybe, they could pull it off. Maybe they could get in the heads of Bayern enough. But then I remembered who I was talking about and how Bayern have seemingly improved bit by bit as the season has gone on, and how Jonathan Tah said prior to the match how much he and the squad were looking forward to this one. And he specifically mentioned how they need to focus on not allowing themselves to get dragged into the nonsense, the provocations that they knew Boca would try. He didn't word it exactly like that, but you get me. And so what we saw was a dominant Bayern display where Boca were just hanging on in that first half at times. And I'll say again, Bayern are looking very, very good. Their attack really can develop into a top 5 in Europe, just to be safe, especially if they get someone for the left wing, as they have mooted, though perhaps Coman will just stick around in the end. He looked fairly rapid down that left side. Anyway, in the first half, Bayern were looking like a goal could come at any second. And after some close calls, Harry Kane finally got his first goal of the tournament after getting nothing against Auckland City. No goal, no assist. He was saving himself, he was saving himself. The second half became more of a battle, with Boca doing better to keep Bayern away from their box, better than in the first half, and a moment of brilliance from Merentiel saw him draw Boca level. Great touch around Jonathan Tah and then slotting it. Cue the entire stadium going absolutely insane, because once again, this was a Boca home match in Miami. You love to see it though, but unfortunately for them, the class of Bayern's attack came through, with Olise providing a cool finish. He had been threatening to do something all match long. An assist from Kane on that goal, who, came alive, and 2-1 Bayern. So, when you look at the standings, Benfica and Boca go into their final matches with everything up in the air. Benfica play Bayern and could go through with a draw. I mean, I won't hold my breath there, as we always lose to Bayern, and I haven't been happy with how Benfica have been playing. Boca, they need to score quite a few goals or hope that Benfica loses by a few to overturn that goal difference. Should be a wild final match day. Okay guys, that's the end of our third Club World Cup recap. Like I said, it is getting very interesting now, as we are seeing the landscape for what every team needs to qualify for, half of the groups. And some fun ones today. Looking forward to seeing what Mamelodi Sundowns do against Borussia Dortmund. Monterrey versus River Plate should be a battle. I'll see you guys in a couple of days. Cool? Be well.